Well, welcome back to Silverstone, everybody, for our second Toyo Tyres Series race, supported by Good Stone Supplies, based in Banbury. We saw a great race earlier on for both the 420R class and for the 1600cc class, and they are all back out there again now for another go around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, a 25-minute race. They're on their formation lap. It's a very full grid of cars. Not sure whether we've got the graphic we can bring you up that guides you through the grid, but the way this grid works is based on the finishing positions from the race earlier on, albeit the top 10 in each category are flipped. So if you win your race, you start the second race of the weekend from 10th position. If you finish 10th, you go to pole. So the way the grid lines up is 1-1-1. Oliver Gibson sits on pole position, alongside him is Russ Ollivant. And row 2 of the grid is going to be 23, which is Justin Armstrong alongside Stuart Calder. Tom Heyman-Joyce sits there on the inside of the third row of the grid, and alongside him is Adam White, and it's Paul Thacker and Phil Jenkins on row number 4. Row 5 is Andy Perry and the race 1 winner, Anthony Barnes, the man who won this championship back in 2021. And row 6 of the grid is Lewis Tiltel, and the Irishman Jay McCormack, who was the 1600cc champion last year, steps up to 420R this year. Mark Bennett and Matt Welsh sit there on row 7, ahead of Steve Riley and Gary Tootle, who are there on row number 8. And row number 9 sees Mark Drain and Matt Drew line up alongside, and it's Andy Thomas and Stephen Collins there on row number 10. Philip Nagel is there on row number 11 alongside Matt Reeve, and it's Matt Spark and Ian Noble that complete the 12th row of the grid, with row 13 being on the inside Rick Potter and John Saunders, and then row 14 sees Ian Dybel line up alongside Julian Carey. Row 15 of the grid is Cliff Murphy and Tim Burton, with row 16 being Richard Borton and Tom Woods. And then row 17, Mark Stansfield, runner-up in the championship last year, had an awful qualifying and race 1. What can he do from there? 33rd position on the grid, alongside him is Ian Cowley. And then it's Duncan Greenaway and Jonathan Mitchell. That's a car to watch out for. Front runner, but retired from race number 1, so starts right at the back of the 420Rs. On to the 1600s. Pole for the 1600s is Jeff Newman, and alongside him is Simon Sharrock, and it's Andrew Donaldson and John Cheverill that sit there on row number 2 for the 1600s. Row number 3 for the 1600s is going to be Luke Rosewell, who has got for company Stuart Bell, and then it's Michael O'Reilly that's got David Yates that sits alongside. Then as we work our way elsewhere through the 1600s, Caroline Everett and Gary Smith line up together. Gary won his 5th win of the season earlier on over the course of the day. Finley Cooper has got Chris Fraser for company on the next row of the grid, and then it's Scott Parker and Paul Sethigh alongside Greg Hyatt and Paul Wells, before we then head towards the final 3 rows of the grid. Andy Ebden has got Dave Antrobus for company. Ben Rosewell is alongside Rob Good, the man who's supporting our footage here today, and it's Colin Loughlin and Chris Savage that line up at the tail end of the field ahead of this rolling start that we will see, and there'll be roughly a 20-second delay between when the 420Rs get themselves heading around the circuit and when the 1600s get going. If you're wondering what the separate classes are, if you're just tuning in, then the 420R class is for Caterham 7 420R championship cars or Superlight R300 cars that meet the championship regulations, fitted with a 6-speed Sadev gearbox as well. These cars weigh about 635 kilos in reality. The 1600cc cars are cars which comply with either Academy or Road Sport or 270R or 310R specification, depending on their year of build as well. And they weigh, based on the fact that it might be a 2014 onwards car, 310R, 615 kilos. If it's pre-14, it'll be 605 kilos, very slightly lighter. So, under what are cloud conditions, but with blue sky, rather than some of the rain that we've had throughout the course of the day here at Silverstone, it's back to being a dry circuit again for our second Toyo Tyres Series race, supported by Good Stone Supplies. And we're about to get things underway. Oliver Gibson in the red and gold car sits on pole position. It's blue and green for Russ Ollivant that sits alongside. Justin Armstrong has got the day glow flashes to him on row number 2, alongside the largely blue and black car of Stuart Calder. So we're about to get things underway. Toyo Tyres Race Series gets going. Oliver Gibson looks to try and get a good start, but Ross Ollivant is matching him for pace and might sweep around the outside here, to take up the lead of the race. Ross Ollivant leads the way. There's a bit of tyre smoke and a little bit of dodging of cars as they head through Copse Corner, but I think largely everybody has come out unscathed through the first corner, and it's Russ Ollivant that leads the way, with, by the look of things, Oliver Gibson no longer in second place, because it looks so Justin Armstrong has wiggled his way through. The 1600s get going. Jeff Newman looking to try and hang on to the lead of the 1600s in the early stages if he can, and his blue car with its day-glow yellow flashes to the rollover hoop, and it looks as though he has made it, so he is leading the way. And who's that there in second place? That looks like it is Michael O'Reilly, is it, that's there in second? No, it's not, it's Luke Rosewell, who's had a blistering start and is up to second place overall in the race in the 1600 category at this stage. So everybody's safely through the first few corners. The overall race lead is just working their way down in towards the braking area for Vale for the first time. Ross Ollivant leading the way. Right behind him now is Justin Armstrong, and then after that it's the light blue car that is next up, which I think is going to be Stuart Calder, who is the next of those. Thereafter, Oliver Gibson, the pole sitter, has now slipped to fourth, running very, very, very wide indeed all over the grass. I think that was Andy Perry that ran wide coming out of Club Corner. Gathers up the moment at the wheel of the number 11 car. That will have dropped him down through the order, though, as the cars press on, round through Farm and in towards the braking area for Village for the first time. Ross Ollivant leading the way. Stuart Calder trying to sneak up to second, and he's made it through and ahead of Justin Armstrong, and then looked as though Stuart Calder was going for the lead. For the lead of the 1600s, Luke Rosewell is out front and leading the way now. He was given a 5-second penalty for causing a collision in the race earlier on today. He's keen not to make that mistake again and wants to see if he can scoop up a win in the 1600s in this slightly shorter 25-minute race, because of course the earlier race was 5 minutes longer. Side by side for the lead, Stuart Calder trying around the outside of Ross Ollivant as they head round through Brooklands, and he has done it. He's picked up the lead of the race at the wheel of the number 82 car. Ross Ollivant down into second place. Adam White is trying to go round the outside of the 23 of Justin Armstrong, but has been picked off by 3 times race winner Phil Jenkins, who was the 2020 champion in the process. So they've all weaving their way through over the start-finish line, ready to chalk lap number 1 into the book. A bit like race number 1, just make sure you're in the lead pack, stay on the coattails of the leading pack, and just shuffle the order continually until the final 2 or 3 laps at very best, and then you really got to crack on with it. So Stuart Calder was leading as they came over the start-finish line, but by the time they head up towards Maggots and Beckett's, it's Phil Jenkins that hits the front for the first time. The number 88 car goes through and into the lead of the race. Stuart Calder wheel to wheel with Oliver White, but it doesn't look as though, Adam White, doesn't look as though Adam White can quite make it through. He stays there in 3rd place. Ross Ollivant is there in 4th place. 5th at the moment is the pole sitter Oliver Gibson with his gold rollover hoop on his car. And then the next of the cars up, is that Jay McCormack that's the next of the cars up? I think it is, yeah. Car number 125, Jay McCormack is next up. The Irishman who stepped up as the reigning 1600cc champion into the 420R category for this weekend, the Dubliner, and for this season. So 21.5 minutes to go. Already a bit of bodywork having been disposed of by Chris Fraser at the wheel of his car. So he is slightly lighter than he was at the beginning of the race. But as the battle for the 1600s rages, Luke Rosewell trying to squeeze the day-glow yellow car of Justin Armstrong towards the curbs as they head up towards Stowe. They just about give each other enough room. No matter where you look again, squabbles going on. Running very wide indeed, that was Paul Thacker. The number 88 car ran very wide as he came through Abbey. He was right up there in the early stages of race number 1, but sort of started to slip away ultimately in the race to finish just off the podium in 4th position. Well, he's left himself a chunk of work to do there as a result of that particular moment. The other car we also need to watch out for is the progress of the number 71 car from the tail end of the field, which is number 71 Jonathan Mitchell. He retired, if you remember, from the race earlier on. Well, on the first lap of the race, from 36th position on the grid, Jonathan Mitchell is up to 23rd. That's not a bad first lap, is it, gaining 13 places? So watch out for the number 71 car. It's light blue with black flashes to it. It will be working its way up through the order, that is absolutely for sure. And in fact, there he is, I think, just at the back of that shot. Yeah, there's Jonathan Mitchell there, the blue car with the black wheel arches to it. A slightly lighter blue, almost teal-coloured car running ahead of him, so Jonathan Mitchell might pick up another place or 2 on this lap. For the lead of the 1600s, though, Luke Rosewell has started to make good his escape by the look of things. David Yates is there in 2nd place at the wheel of his blue and black car with a white rollover hoop, but he is being hounded by Justin Armstrong that sits behind. So 1600s squealing their way, those Toyo tyres squealing in agony because the drivers are pushing them to their very, very limits. Fantastic tyre, but on these warm conditions, it is a warm day. It might be cloudy, but it is very humid here at Silverstone, so plenty of grip afforded by the fantastic Toyo tyre. And he can just hear them squealing as they head round the Silverstone tarmac side by side for second, third, fourth and fifth in the 1600cc category. And it looks as though David Yates is still just going to hang on to second at the moment. The car that sits behind him is Michael O'Reilly, I think. Then it is the car of Jeff Newman, and Jeff Newman has got just after him a slightly sideways number 93 car, which is Andrew Donaldson's car. That's the black car with the yellow stripe right the way down the centre of it. Now for the lead of the race, Phil Jenkins is under pressure, sitting in his slipstream, about to jink out from behind to try and retake the lead goes Stuart Calder. He's going to sneak his way up the inside as they head through Abbey and on towards Farm, so Stuart Calder will lead. Phil Jenkins second for the moment, but can Adam White come through into second at the wheel of the orange car? No, not quite. Phil Jenkins decided he doesn't want to quite lose the lead of the races yet, so breaks as late as he can, nips back up the inside of Stuart Calder's blue machine. And Stuart Calder now, I think, is going to lose out to Adam White, who gets a bit of a biff in the rear from Russ Ollivant's car. So that's a little bit of bodywork that's just come missing now. The left wheel arch missing off Adam White's third place car as they all start to descend down the Wellington Straight and in towards the braking area for Brooklands once more. We're already over a quarter of the way through this race now, 5 minutes shorter than the race that we had earlier on. One driver that hasn't quite made it up into the order is that, and that's a problem. That's a retirement. Now, is that Mark Drain potentially? Difficult to tell from that angle. I'm not sure it is Mark Drain. I think it might be kind of 173 Matt Spark, possibly. So we'll have to wait and see as to which one that is. There's a few cars that are very similar colour, but I think from that angle, whilst we couldn't see the number, it's more than likely Matt Spark rather than Mark Drain. So for the lead of the race, Adam White, now missing that wheel arch, picks up the lead of the race overall, and of course the lead of the 420R category in the process. Stuart Calder, by the time they get to Maggots and Beckett's, goes through to retake the lead of the race. So Stuart Calder leads, Phil Jenkins second, Adam White, who was leading over the start-finish line in typical Caterham fashion, now down into third. Oliver Gibson in the gold rollover hooped car is there in fourth place. Russ Ollivant is fifth. Jay McCormack is sixth, but coming under pressure now from the Dayglow Orange number 4 car in the hands of Anthony Barnes, who claimed his second win of the season earlier on, and of course continues to lead the championship, the reigning champion. So through Stowe Corner, there's yellow flags at Stowe at the moment because of that stricken car, which I don't think was Matt Spark, because Matt Spark did come through at the end of that particular lap, so we'll have to try and work out which one of the 58 cars we've got in the order that was that dropped all the way down and into potential retirement. John Chevrolet's having a busy race at the wheel of his number 171 1600cc car, but look at the lead, just breaking away is Luke Rosewell. That's the thing now, he's broken away in the lead of the 1600s. This huge pack of cars now are all fighting over second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth in the 1600cc category, and what they can't afford to do is squabble, which is exactly what they're doing at the moment. If they want to catch Luke Rosewell's car, they are going to have to work together. If they don't, they're just going to fall further and further and further adrift. More bits of bodywork strewn around the circuit, cars with nose cones somewhat askew as well. That's not going to help the aerodynamics of the Caterham whatsoever. It's just going to punch an even bigger hole in the air for everybody, and if the radiator's damaged, it might give you a few problems as well. With 15 minutes to go, they still keep pressing on, and with those 15 minutes to go, hopefully we won't see those yellow flags up at Stowe for much longer, because the marshals are trying to push that stricken car out of harm's way. Now the fastest lap of the race has been done by the car that started in 36th position, number 71 Jonathan Mitchell. I said watch out for him, he's now up into 14th place, 2 minutes 21.949 for Jonathan Mitchell. Now that is already quicker than the fastest lap of the race that we saw in race number 1, because it was a 2 minutes 21.6, sorry, slightly slower. It was 2 minutes 21.6 that we saw from Tom Heyman-Joyce in race number 1, so slightly slower from Jonathan Mitchell, but he is working his way up into potential contention with 15 minutes still to go. Whilst for the lead of the race, Phil Jenkins is starting to break away a little bit, because everybody fighting over second at the moment. Adam White under pressure from Stuart Calder. Russ Ollivant is under attack from the car of Oliver Gibson that sits behind, that car with the gold rollover hoop. But we've still got those localised yellow flags up at Stowe Corner, so no overtaking in reality on towards the top section of the Hanger Straight. The drivers have already been through here once or twice, so they should know that. They should be looking out for the flags and just making sure they ease off, which I think largely they're all doing by the look of things. Yeah, rather than trying to attack, they realise they can't do it, and if you don't get it done by the time you get to the yellow flags, you've just got to sit behind once more. So I think sensible driving from them all. They know the incident's there, they know the marshals are working trackside, and just respect those flags, which is what they've all done. So Phil Jenkins breaking away in the lead. He's still only less than half a second up the road from the fight for second place, but Stuart Calder is under attack from the car of Adam White, and is going to lose potentially second place as Adam White looks for the inside line as they head round through Abbey, and by the time they get towards Farm, he's still not quite able to do it. So fight still continuing. Ross Ollivant in the 55 car still under attack from number 111, which is Oliver Gibson. And as for the car that's brought about those yellow flags up at Stowe Corner, I said I whittled it down to two potential cars, one of which was Matt Spark, the other of which was Mark Drain. I didn't think it was Mark Drain, but Matt Spark has come through, whereas Mark Drain hasn't, so it would appear it was the car I first thought it would be. Mark Drain's car out of the race, I'm afraid. Long-time Caterham racer, Mark Drain. So Stuart Calder trying to undo the door to second position. Has he got the key to it? No, not quite. Adam White still hangs on to the place at the wheel of the orange number 168 car. As over the start-finish line comes Phil Jenkins. Now, what was 0.4 of a second now is going to go out because they're all squabbling behind, and I said that's what they can't afford to do. They're now 2 seconds adrift of Phil Jenkins, so Phil Jenkins has done the all-important thing in Caterham racing. He has broken the toe on the cars behind, so they are now going to have to work together. If they don't, Phil Jenkins will just disappear up the road. What they need to do, it doesn't mean they can't overtake each other, but what they can't do is squabble. What they need to do is sit behind one another, let each car just overtake the one ahead of it down the straight, and then you work together again until the next straight where you all overtake again. So that's what they need to do, because that number 88 car is disappearing, ever disappearing up the road in the hands of Phil Jenkins, who has already taken 3 race wins so far this season in the Toyo Tyres race series, supported by Goodstone Supplies this weekend. So 12 minutes of the race to go. They weave their way round through Stowe. Somebody running very wide indeed. I think that was Paul Thacker again at the wheel of the 66 car that ran hugely wide there. We'd already seen him have an issue. And then there's lock brakes as Stuart Calder fires one up the inside of Oliver Gibson, who thankfully saw him coming there and left the door open. That put Oliver Gibson offline, so he's then almost picked off by the next car trying to weave its way through, which would be the number 11 car in the hands of Andy Perry. Andy Perry is coming under attack from Ross Ollivant. Ross Ollivant is about to lose out to the light blue car of Jay McCormack, who's trying to squeeze his way through. And the new fastest lap of the race is still sitting, or the fastest lap of the race is still sitting with Jonathan Mitchell, who is in 11th place as things currently stand, and is on to the coattails of this little pack of cars now. So yeah, he's there by the look of things at the tail end of the field, and I think made a little bit of contact there coming out of the loop with a fellow competitor, because I did see another little bit of bodywork just fly in the air, and I think it was the rear wheel arch actually of Jonathan Mitchell's car, because that is now missing, which it wasn't a couple of corners ago. So for the lead of the 1600s at this stage, we still had Luke Rosewell that was leading the way and had managed to pull away. This is squabbles going on elsewhere for the 1600s, as side by side they go. That is the car of David Yates, who's running wheel to wheel with Jeff Newman. Jeff Newman didn't have a great qualifying session, so had to work his way through the order in race number 1 to come out at the sharp end of the 1600s. He has had a good race so far in this race, but he's coming under pressure now from the championship leader in the 1600s, the black car of Gary Smith, sitting directly behind him. Just off that is Michael O'Reilly. Then we've got the car of Stuart Bell. Stuart Bell coming under pressure from the blue and green machine, which is number 9, Caroline Everett, who had a good run in the race earlier on today to finish well up in the class. She was second overall in the 1600s earlier on at the wheel of that blue and green machine, and she's trying to work her way past Stuart Bell's car, who finished third, or who is currently, I should say, third in the championship at the moment, the number 119 car. So we've got 10 minutes of the race to go. Still a good battle for the lead of the 1600s, a good battle for second in the 420Rs, and it looks as though finally starting to make inroads now is the race 1 winner, which is Anthony Barnes at the wheel of that almost burgundy and white and day-glow orange number 4 car, because he's running wheel to wheel with Stuart Calder. He's right on the bumper of Adam Smith and running 3rd overall in the race. Stuart Calder, I think, missed a gear there, and Jonathan Mitchell is trying to squeeze his way through. And remember, Jonathan Mitchell has come from 36th on the grid here, Jonathan Mitchell. He's now up into, what, 6th, 7th position, and has still got 9 minutes to try and carve that light blue number 71 car further through the order. He's just overtaken the pole-sitting car in this race, that being the car of Oliver Gibson, the red car with the gold rollover hoop. So it really has been a brilliant drive from Jonathan Mitchell. I knew he'd make progress through the order. I would guessed that he'd be inside the top 10 by the end of it. I thought there was a possibility of a top 6. Well, he's pretty much there on both of those counts now, but he is potentially only, what, half a second away from getting himself on the podium. Escaping and gone up the road is Phil Jenkins. They've been too busy squabbling behind, so Phil Jenkins has built a 2.2 second lead. It's everybody else now that it's trying to sort out who's going to be second onwards. At the moment it is number 4, Anthony Barnes, from Adam White, and now up into what will be 4th place, having started this lap in 7th, is Jonathan Mitchell, I think. Let's just have a quick look back to the 1600s, where the battles are still raging. We've still got the red car of Stuart Bell squabbling away with Caroline Everett at the tail end of this queue, but at the front end of the queue we have got David Yates trying to apply the pressure to Gary Smith, whilst also needing to defend from the number 79 car as well of Jeff Newman. So those 3 cars all absolutely together, just about to work their way onto the Wellington straight. Michael O'Reilly at the wheel of the 13 car runs wide coming out of the loop and is just about gathering it up by the time they head out of Aintree and down the Wellington straight for what for them will be the 8th time in this race, with just now 7 minutes and a bit of change remaining. The overall race leaders are already on the hanger straight though. They're on lap number 8 now, and Anthony Barnes in second place is under attack. Adam Smith jinks out from behind. He's not going to get through as they head towards Stowe though. Jonathan Mitchell is indeed now up another 3 places from 7th to 3rd on that lap, so 7th to 4th rather I should say on that lap, so he is not quite as yet in the podium spots, but if he can overtake one more car he'll be there. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th all together as they thread their way through the Vale, then through the almost never-ending right-hander at Club Corner and start to accelerate past the wing, the Grand Prix start-finish line, and up the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. Anthony Barnes defending from the attack that's coming from Adam Smith. Jonathan Mitchell is next up, and then a very, very slight gap between Jonathan Mitchell in 4th place and Stuart Calder, Andy Perry, Jay McCormack and co, who are there for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and you could argue 10th place as well. So Adam Smith sitting there in 3rd place, the orange car coming under attack from the number 71 machine in the hands of Jonathan Mitchell. Jonathan we haven't seen huge amounts of in the Toyo Tyres 7s race series this year, but when he did appear at Snetterton he finished 2nd in one of the races. He won the other 2. Of course, he retired from the race earlier on today, which put him down in 36th position on the grid. And well, he has almost now got himself up into the podium slots, and in fact will do by the end of this lap if he stays where he is. I'm afraid there we've lost one, and that is Ian Cowley, I think. Couldn't quite see the number of it, but it looked like the potentially the number 34 car of Ian Cowley. There aren't many purpley cars in the field. So over the start-finish line comes Phil Jenkins. Look at the gap that he's opened up here. And are we going to see Jonathan Mitchell up to 2nd? Yes, we do. Jonathan Mitchell now from 36th on the grid is up into 2nd position. A fantastic drive from him. And he is only 3.9 seconds off the lead of the race. But having picked up 2nd at Copse Corner, he's down to, what, 4th or 5th by the time they get to Maggots and Beckett's, because through with a very decisive lunge goes Jay McCormack. Through goes Adam Smith, and also he is picked off there by Andy Perry as well. So Jonathan Mitchell 3rd and the fastest lap. All of a sudden, what is he now? 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th he's in, trying to attack Andy Perry as they head down the hanger straight. He'll have the inside line. We've also got Stuart Calder trying to make it 3 wide as we head up towards Stowe Corner, but thinks better of it. They just go to being side by side round through Stowe Corner. And all of this is just playing so well into the hands of Phil Jenkins, who is still leading this race, and it's actually also now helping the car that's in second place, which is going to be Anthony Barnes, because he has just started to break away very, very slightly, as you can see, from the squabble behind. So Anthony Barnes, that sort of burgundy and day-glow orange roll hoop to his car, you can just see is disappearing up the road a little bit from the man from Dublin, Jay McCormack, the reigning 1600cc champion, who was up into third overall, but under attack from Andy Perry, who tries the outside line, heading in towards the braking area for Village. That doesn't work, up towards the loop. Andy Perry now coming under attack from Adam Smith, who will try and cut back on the exit. Will he? Yep, there's a bit more bodywork between the pair of them, as Andy Perry tried to park it on the apex of the corner. Adam Smith was keen to get on the gas, and therefore there was just contact between the pair of them, and yet another Caterham wheel arch goes flying. If you were the parts manager at Caterham, you would certainly know the part number for a front and a rear wing on a Caterham. They are very much disposable items when it comes to racing. So 3.5 minutes remaining, which means that the race leader should be heading Phil Jenkins onto his penultimate lap this time through, but whilst he is looking good for the lead of the race, and Anthony Barnes is looking slightly more secure, or was part of the way through this lap in second place. We'll have to wait to see. Someone who's looking very secure for the lead of the 1600s is Luke Rosewell, because you can see he's got the whole length of the Lewis Hamilton straight between himself and everybody that wants to be second in the 1600s at the moment. And who is second in the 1600s? That is David Yates, by the look of things. So David Yates is second in the 1600s, and at the lead of this queue, then it will be the car in the hands of Stuart Bell that wraps up the podium potentially for the 1600s, but he's under attack from the championship leader, the black car with the red stripe, in the hands of Gary Smith. Gary Smith has got Caroline Everett with him, and then Caroline Everett is under attack from the car with the day-glow yellow rollover hoop, which is going to be Jeff Newman, who was the pole sitter in the 1600s. So there's no easy positions to be had in the Toyo Tyres Sevens race series, which will pack things up here at Silverstone, and their next races will be their final races of the season at Oulton Park, in Cheshire on the 27th of August. Now, who's that going slowly there? That's Jay McCormack that was going slow and offline there, but I think that was probably just that he outbraked himself heading in towards Stowe, and that was why he was a little bit wider than otherwise he would have expected. And I'm afraid there is out of the race Andy Perry. So something has happened to Andy Perry on the Hanger Straight. So driver who finished in second place overall earlier on today, Andy Perry, is not going to make it 2 podiums out of 2, I'm afraid. He was 4th at the start of the lap. He's a retiree by the time he gets a quarter of the way around it. So we're into the final 120 seconds of this race now. And Phil Jenkins, as we say, a number of laps ago made good his escape. He'd broken the toe on the cars behind. They've still continued to squabble, so he's now built a very un-Caterham-like 4.4 second advantage between his number 88 car that leads the way and the car that's in second place, as there is the rather forlorn sight of Andy Perry, first UK podium earlier on today, and I'm afraid it is retirement in race number 2 here at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. So on towards the last lap of the race will come Phil Jenkins. Anthony Barnes still there in second position, Jake McCormack hanging on to third. We've got Jonathan Mitchell, I think, now back into 4th place. He was 6th at the beginning of this lap. He was 3rd the lap prior, so 3rd to 6th, and I think back to 4th, is he, by the end of this one? Yes, he is, yeah, back to 4th by the end of this particular lap, and looking for 3rd place on the inside of Jay McCormack, the man from Dublin. The reigning 1600cc champion is lent on by Jay McCormack, and he's lent on by Jonathan Mitchell, but still hangs on to the place. So Jay McCormack looking to try and grab a podium position if he can, but the car behind him, Jonathan Mitchell, looking to try and join him on the podium, and has just set the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 21.872 for Jonathan Mitchell. 36th position on the grid, and on for a potential podium. That's lots of overtaking to be done, and there might be a bit more overtaking to be done by the end of the race, because they are now starting to catch some of the 1600cc cars and will have to weave their way through the traffic. So Jonathan Mitchell up the inside of Jay McCormack heading towards Stowe, can't quite make it stick, so they squeal their way through the right-hander, and I think it will still be Jonathan Mitchell that's just behind as they come out of the corner. Is there anything else he can do towards the end of the lap, because time and opportunities are running out, I'm afraid to say. We've also still got the 1600s just hanging on to the penultimate lap. They'll be going onto their last lap very shortly, and there's still some good battles being done there as well. But in the lead of the 1600s is Luke Rosewell, who is a long way up the road and gone, I'm afraid, in the 1600s. So it's going to be a dominant win for Luke Rosewell, which I actually think will be his first win in 1600s of the championship season. A quick look down at the scoring, and yeah, he's had 4 seconds and a third. He finished 4th earlier on today, so could be on for his first 1600cc win of the 2022 Toyo Tyres 7 Series season. But up towards checkered flag very shortly will come the race-leading number 88 car of Phil Jenkins, who has just eased his pace over the course of the last few laps. He hasn't needed to push on, so he wiggles his way past what should be the final back marker in towards Brooklands Corner. Who's going to finish in second? Well, it's Anthony Barnes as they head through the final corner, but Jay McCormack is clinging on with his fingertips to third place, because he's coming under pressure from Jonathan Mitchell, who's desperate to try and make it a podium finish from 36th position on the grid. Is he going to be able to do it on the sprint to the line, or might the Irishman just about hang on to the place? Phil Jenkins is going to claim the win. In second position, it's Anthony Barnes, and in third place, it looked like it was just Jay McCormack. Yes, by 6 1/1000ths of a second, Jay McCormack hangs on to the final podium spot. Jonathan Mitchell just misses out on the podium, having started in 36th position, but what a drive to 4th position, and nets the fastest lap of the race as well with a 2-minute 21.873. Then 5th place will go the way of Adam White. It will be Justin Armstrong in 6th place. Tom Heyman-Joyce, we didn't really mention much, but he was there in 7th in the end. 8th place was Oliver Gibson, the pole sitter. 9th place was Ross Oliphant, and Stuart Calder finished in 10th place in the end. He had a bit of a nightmare final lap, middle sector. He lost a big chunk of time, lost a few places along the way as well. For the 1600s, though, who is going to come out on top? It looks as though, without question, it's going to be Luke Rosewell, but we've had some great fighting going on for the 1600cc category. Through goes Luke Rosewell now, out of shot. And then for second in the 1600s, it looks as though it is David Yates, busy going wheel to wheel with what looks like Gary Smith there as they head up towards the braking area for what is Brooklands Corner. And it is indeed Gary Smith that just is able to sneak through and ahead of David Yates, so they peel their way through the final corner. Luke Rosewell takes the win in the 1600s. That's his first class win in 1600s this season, so well done to him. And then second and third in the 1600s, just about to blast their way over the start-finish line now, and it looks as though it's going to be Gary Smith that finishes second in the class, just ahead of David Yates. And everybody wants to be third in the class, and I think it was probably just John Chevrolet in the car that claimed third place from what looked like Jeff Newman, who was 4th in the 1600s. But on my timing screen I can only see the top 30. The second page would give me the next 30, but I need the remote control for that, which I can't find. So that is the final race for the Toyo Tyres 7 Race Series done. Thanks to Good Stone Supplies for their fantastic support for this weekend, and to Rob Good, who was one of the competitors in that huge field of 58 cars for the Toyo Tyres 7's Race Series, which, as we say, the last few cars trickling their way over the start-finish line. They will pack things away, and next time out they will be heading to Cheshire and Alton Park on the 27th of August for their final races of the season. It may well be that a few of the drivers and cars then take in some of the foreign races that they've always had, that have been down towards the south of Spain and into Portugal in the autumn, but they are not part of the main series and don't count towards the championship scoring. So let's just confirm the results for you for what was another brilliant race. So the win goes the way of Phil Jenkins. He claims the victory, and that means that's now 4 wins for the season for him. Anthony Barnes, the race 1 winner, was there in second place, and Jay McCormack, the reigning 1600cc champion, stepping up to 420Rs for this year, finished third. Jonathan Mitchell, 36th on the grid to 4th. There's a result for you. It's Adam Smith in 5th place, and Justin Armstrong was there in 6th, ahead of Tom Heyman-Joyce, who was 7th. 8th went the way of Oliver Gibson, the pole sitter. Ross Oliphant and Stuart Calder wrapped up the top 10. Just outside of the top 10 was Gary Tootle, who finished in 11th place. 12th was Welsh from Thomas Collins-Bennett, and Philip Nagel, who was there in 16th place. Matt Spark was 17th, Drew was there in 18th. Lewis Tootle finished 19th, and completing the top 20 was the number 86 car of Steve Riley that finished in 20th position. There's all the rest of those outside of the top 20 in the Toyo Tyres 7's Race Series 420R class, including Paul Thacker, who again didn't have a great race whatsoever. And then if you look down towards what is 33rd position, That is the, 33rd position? Yeah, 33rd position, showing us a 420R, but that is Luke Rosewell, who is the leading 1600cc car that we've got there in 33rd position, from Gary Smith, the number 22 car, who was 34th, and completing the 1600cc podium was Carnival 115, David Yates, who finished in 35th position overall. There's all the rest of the runners that you've got. How many pages have we had to get through? Look at that, 5th page of results, and we're still only up to 50 cars. There's another 8 to find somewhere, but what a busy old race, and let's hope that when they head towards Alton Park, whilst the circuit can't accommodate quite as many competitors, what they are highly likely to do there is split the grids once more, so the 420Rs will have separate races, I'm sure, to the 1600s. So thanks for joining us for the Toyo Tyres Sevens Race Series, supported by Good Stone Supplies here at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. But that's it for today. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, it's goodbye.